I wish I could tell you I was outrageous when I was growing up. I know this sounds weird, but I didn't know how to get into trouble until I was 12 years old. Literally, I had to be taught how to get into trouble. I was an only child, and my dad was in the hotel business, and we had moved around so many times from state to state to state, hotel to hotel to hotel, that by the time I was 12 years old, I couldn't even remember all the places I had lived. So I was always trying to figure out what the rules were in the new place, and I wouldn't have broken one of them for anything. And then in 1947, my daddy took a job in Nashville, Tennessee, and by this time my parents had figured out it wasn't really good for a kid to be moving around and leaving friends behind every time, that it had caused me to be a little shy and not so sure of myself. So they decided to take their savings, their small savings, and put a down payment on a little house. It was a little bitty house in Nashville, Tennessee, but it was, there were 2 bedrooms, and so I had my own room. And the best thing of all is right across the street was a girl who was to change my life. Her name was Jackie Wright, and she was everything I wasn't. She was blonde and green-eyed and full of the dickens. And when her mother was so glad that I had moved across the street and that we had hit it off, because see, I was dark and shy and demure and so sweet. Well, she thought I was going to teach Jackie how to be a lady. And she needed work, believe me. By the time I'd been there a week, I couldn't believe the things. She was driving her parents crazy. I couldn't believe the things she could do and get away with it. And with another couple of weeks, I couldn't believe the things I was doing and was getting away with it. And one of those things was not long after I moved there, and we had become fast friends. I was over at her house on Saturday morning, and her parents came in. Now I was 12 years old in 1947. That's going to be important later. Jackie's parents had already been to the grocery. They came home from the grocery and lined the sacks up on the counter, and told us that they had more errands to do, and that we were to be there by ourselves for the rest of the morning. And all we had to do was to put up the groceries and behave ourselves. So we waved them away. Of course, we were so disappointed we were going to be by ourselves. We waved them away, and we began putting up the groceries. Now, to understand what comes next is, I have to explain to you, because nobody here will remember this, is that in 1947, maybe Ann, 1947, for the first time in Tennessee, margarine came on the market. And it was cheaper than butter, and so people were buying it like crazy, and the margarine manufacturers kind of panicked, and they used their considerable influence to get legislation passed that they could sell that margarine if they wanted to, that tastes so much like butter, but they couldn't put food coloring in it. So they had to sell it like it is, as is, white, like lard. And that wasn't very appetizing to put on your toast or your grits. So before very long, though, the margarine manufacturers came up with this genius marketing idea of packaging it in this clear plastic bag, the white margarine, this clear plastic, tough bag, and right in the center of that bag was a capsule with the food coloring in it. And so you'd get home from the grocery store and press that capsule, and it would leak out into the white margarine, this streams of gold and red, and then you'd have to work it like this, massage it to get it mixed up. And then, of course, you'd have margarine. So it was a little awkward, but it worked, and kids loved to do that because it was so squishy. You'd have to put it back in the refrigerator to get before you could spread it on anything. Anyway, as you can already guess, we came across the margarine. We could have stood right there in the living room, right there in the kitchen, and mixed up the margarine, but Jackie's idea was for us to go into the living room. Now, the Wrights had just had a very fashionable house, and they had just had pale green wall-to-wall carpeting, real expensive, real velvety wall-to-wall carpeting all through the living room and dining room and down the halls. And Jackie put me over in one corner of the living room, and then she backed up to the catty corner across from me, and she tossed me the margarine, the bag of margarine, and then I tossed it back to her, and we went back and forth, and I was thinking, this is great fun, this is wild, and we were having such a good time until it hit the corner of the lamp table, and that margarine splattered all over everything. I mean, there was margarine on the walls, on the lampshade, on the lamp, on the table there, and then this whole puddle of it on the pale green carpet. And we didn't know how long we had to get it up, so we scraped and scrubbed and licked and did everything we could do to get that margarine up, and it came up pretty well, except that big round stain on the carpet. And I was ready to just I was just ready to throw myself down and start begging for forgiveness, but Jackie never had a remorseful thought thinking, and she was also very resourceful, and she just noticed that one of the armchairs, they had a big overstuffed armchair, she got on one side of that and got me on the other side, and we pulled it over on top of the stain, which meant that then we had to rearrange the rest of the furniture. And the minute her parents walked in, she came up with some tall tale just like that, about why it looked better this way, and didn't they think so? And they said, yeah. And I mean, I wouldn't have deserted her before they got home, but as soon as they bought into that, I thought they know her better than I do. If they believe that, I'm going home. And I went home and never heard another word about it. And that was only one of many hijinks that they won't let me tell you more about because I have to stick with the time requirements. But fortunately, I was kind of learning that you could do all these crazy things and you didn't necessarily get found out. And it was, I was really getting loosened up, which was a good thing. But then something happened that caused me to reconsider my friendship with Jackie. By the time, several months later, by the time I was in the 8th grade, she was in the 7th grade, I had a sweetheart. And his name was Larry Woods, and he was black-haired and blue-eyed and good-looking. And he had taken a shine to me, and he'd come over in the afternoons after school on his motor scooter. And one day he was over there, and I saw that he had something under his jacket, and when I went out to visit with him, he reached into his jacket and pulled out this little white kitten, brand just taken from its mother. And he put that little white kitten in my hands, and I looked up at me, and it had blue eyes too, just like Larry's. And I mean, I was just in love. And he wanted to know, would my mother let me keep her? And I went in and I said, I don't know, but let me ask. And I asked, and my mother said what mothers always say, cats are a lot of trouble. You'll have to take care. You can keep that cat, you're going to have to take care of it. And I promised that I would do that. And I did, and we kept her inside for the longest time, but then as she got older, we let her go outside, and one day I was out front with other kids in the neighborhood, and Jackie among them, and Snowball, the cat by this time, came scampering into the yard. And we were throwing a ball or maybe a beanbag around doing something. And I heard this, and Jackie had picked up my cat by the tail and was kind of showing off. And I said, Jackie, put down my cat. And all the kids laughed because I was so sweet. And she put it down right away, and thinking that was taken care of, we went on and played something else until she did it again, and I hollered again at her, and she got another laugh. And when I heard her the third time, I didn't know a thing in the world about fighting, but something rose up in me. And I doubled up my fist and I swung around behind my back, came around like that, and I decked her. And I thought I'd killed her. I mean, I thought I had killed my friend. But she was just shocked, as I was. And, you know, I never had any trouble with her after that. Picking my kid up by the tail. So I still think of her, though. I mean, that incident didn't completely end our relationship, but it cooled it considerably. And we went our separate ways, and I made some other friends. But I've never forgotten her for teaching me that I didn't have to be perfect all the time, which is such a burden. Much better to be outrageous every day. And I don't know if I taught her a thing other than don't pick my cat.
Thank you.